Amongst the Ninjago community, one of the more commonly debated topics is who is the strongest of the ninja. It is honestly a very interesting topic to look at, and the answer can definitely vary depending on how you look at it. Now, I have technically looked at this topic before. I have done a video where I ranked every single elemental master from strongest to weakest, and the thing is that I do still stand by that video. It is a decent video, and if you've not checked it out, I would definitely recommend you do so. So you may all be asking the same questions. Weavy, why are you reapproaching this topic? Weavy, is there a point at reapproaching this topic? Weavy, why did you message my mother last night? The answer is, because I can. But the real answer is, in that video I had a criteria that was much more vague and set to every elemental master. In that video I did how strong the elemental power was, how they used the elemental power, and how they would do in a 1v1 situation. Basically, the Tournament of Sources was not long released, but in this video, I'm instead going to expand the criteria, and I'm only going to do our core main team. I'm doing our 6 beloved ninja, I'm doing Sora, Aaron, Frack, and Wildfire. I'm going to look at those 10, and I'm going to score them all accordingly with a new criteria. So sit back, relax, and let me know what you think of my interpretation of the strongest ninja. Now, I have set the new criteria on 6 different factors. I have based every single one of our ninja on their combat ability, their strength, their IQ, their elemental power, how they were in their prime, and how they are currently. And all of them will be given a point from 1 to 10. They will all be ranked accordingly, so the best in the category will get 10, then it'll go 9, 8, 7, etc. down to 1. So overall, they are playing for a total score of 60. And I will say, some of them did actually get close to full marks. But I do want to say before we begin, I honestly did find some of these categories very difficult to do. Remember, I had to give some of these characters very low points simply just because the other ones were just kind of better. And the thing is that it did translate to me thinking it looked like I didn't think some of these characters were strong. I have to say, all 10 of them are extremely strong characters. It's just simply put, some of them are just more deserving of the higher points. But let's actually get into the first category. And that first one, like I said, is combat. Like I said, in an actual hand-to-hand scenario, using weapons, using the actual fighting techniques, who is actually the best in that regard? Getting the 10 points for me is definitely Lloyd. Lloyd has more than proven that he is very good in hand-to-hand combat, especially in Dragon's Rising, where he takes on multiple different foes who are bigger, stronger, and that doesn't even apply just to Dragon's Rising, now I'm thinking of it. There are so many different enemies from over the years that Lloyd has had so much of an impressive ability against. He needs the 10 points. I think this is kind of a no-brainer. Getting 9 points or in second place was Kai. Honestly, very similar vein to Lloyd. Kai is very good in a hand-to-hand scenario. He has also faced many opponents that he shouldn't have really have stood a chance against, but yet again, he was able to do so. Honestly, for every single reason I specified with Lloyd, it's just Lloyd is a little better. Getting 8 points is Cole. Honestly, it kind of goes out saying that he has to be up there because he has had one thing that not a lot of people will point out. Cole has had by far the most variety of weapons over the course of the show. Cole has used near enough every single ninja's weapon at some point, and he is very good with them. Honestly, he is extremely skilled when it does come to his combat. I can't discount how good he is anymore. Getting 7 points is Nia. I have to say Nia is extremely good at combat. It's just simply put the other ones are a little better again. That's the point I want to bring. All of them are really good. It's just kind of varying on how good I think they are. But Nia, again, has proven to be a very skilled fighter. Definitely very good with what she does and what she has at her disposal. Just extremely skilled in near enough every regard, and in similar vein to Cole, has definitely used her fair share of weapons. Getting 6 points is Jay, especially considering that I'm considering up until Season 3 Part 2, Jay has displayed such an impressive ability when it does come to combat. Jay, honestly, is one of the smartest fighters on the team, and I feel like a lot of people don't actually realize it. When Jay is actually getting loved, pay attention to how he fights. Honestly, he is extremely impressive, and it kind of goes under the radar. Has to be 6 for him. 5 is then going to go to Zane. This felt extremely harsh, and Zane is a very smart fighter at that, but I do feel like in recent time he has been shown to not be as good as the rest of the ninja, but I feel like that is very much subject to change, especially when you consider when Zane was doing his combat. But the thing is that he's still extremely good at it. It's just the fact I think the other 5 were just a little bit better. But Zane getting 5 points, very much respectable. Getting 4 points is Sora. Sora, again, is a very smart fighter. I have to say she has a lot of very impressive moments. It's just the fact that all the ninja have proven to be much more skilled in combat. I think that kind of goes without saying because of their experience, but Sora's definitely had her moments. I feel like we haven't seen a lot of her use actual weaponry, but I feel like that is, apart from that, an extremely good fighter. So she had to have 4. Frack, in my opinion, definitely needed the 3 points. The little bit of time we've actually had of him, he has actually been shown to demonstrate a lot of very impressive technical ability. I do think he actually has a lot of really impressive moments, and I do think, ironically, the training with Raz paid off. He's actually a very good fighter. If you think about it as well, in the Tournament of Sources, he did stand up to Sora, so it makes sense to think that he would be near the level of her. Aaron's coming in at number 2. This felt extremely harsh because he does have his moments, but Aaron at times has been shown to default to moves that have never worked in the past. Of course, they have started to work, but I think of so many times where Aaron has used a ninja move just for nothing really to come from it. But that's not to say he's a bad fighter, I just feel like he's one of the characters that has got a lot to learn. So 2 points for him. And 1 point is Wildfire. Unfortunately speaking, I do think she just has the mentality of just going in and hoping for the best. She doesn't really have much of a combat ability, she just hopes she's gonna win the fight. I'm not beating the Wildfire allegations anytime soon. But that on overall is combat. That is the list to the side. I actually think it's a fairly decent one. I do think Lloyd is the best of the bunch. Kai, Cole and Nia are very close. Jay and Zane are also very close. And then the new ninja are there, but they definitely have got a bit to learn. But that was the first criteria for combat, and currently Lloyd is in the lead. But that does bring us over to the second category, which is the raw strength of the ninja. I did consider putting it in with combat, but I do feel like they are separate enough. You could be very skilled in combat, but not physically strong, or very physically strong, but not very good in combat. But I do think it's more of the first one than the latter, because coming in at 10 points is Cole. He had to go at the top, because simply put, he has super strength. I feel like there is no contest there. 9 for me is Kai. Kai has definitely demonstrated a lot of very good moments of strength. I feel like it goes without saying that he definitely does have his moments. I feel like he has a lot of potential, and I feel like it goes unnoticed because of Cole. But he definitely had to have 9 points for me. 8 points, I did give it to Lloyd, because again, he has demonstrated a fair amount of strength. I feel like a lot of people consider Lloyd to be a little weaker, but I definitely think in particular in recent time, he's definitely got up there in terms of his actual strength level. Honestly, I do feel like that is one that could be adjusted a little bit, but I actually do think Lloyd kind of belongs at 8. Although the reason why I do think he could be adjusted is because then I put Zane at 7. I do think there's an argument to state that Zane is stronger than Lloyd, physically speaking, but I do feel like it could go either way. Honestly, I'm not entirely certain. That is kind of the one thing that I was a little bit shaky on. But as it stands, I've got Zane in 7 because he is definitely strong. Getting 6 points for me is definitely Jay. Again, I do feel like a lot of people don't really take into the fact that Jay is actually pretty strong, and he has been shown to have moments of actual strength. Honestly, it is really cool that he does get a little more love in this list, because I do feel like he is deserving of it. Of course, I don't think he's stronger than the 4 that came before, but he definitely does have his moments, and I wanted to give some appreciation towards it. And again, at 5 points, I did give it to Nia. I do feel like a lot of people may, again, disagree because you've got, for example, Frack and Aaron on the list, but Nia is actually really strong. Nia has actually been demonstrated to have a lot of strength, and I feel like a lot of people don't really notice that. So, 5 points I do think is very respectable for her. Getting 4 points is Frack. I do think he is actually weirdly strong. He has definitely been shown to have a lot of good moments of strength. I do think he definitely has got a lot more potential, and I do think he could potentially go up in the future, but as it stands, I do want to say that he does have something about him, but I'm just not entirely certain it beats any of the core 6 yet. Getting 3 points, and again, I do think this could be debated, is going to be Aaron. I do think Aaron is got some sort of strength about him because he has had moments which definitely proves that he has to have something about him. I don't think he's weak by any accounts, but I definitely think him getting 3 points makes sense, but you could potentially bump him down to 2. And that's because for 2 points I did give it to Wildfire. She of course has that kind of feral, rural strength. She has some weird thing about her that definitely streams strength to me, but I don't think she is necessarily stronger than the rest. Because the thing is that while she was living in the wilderness, she probably had most things done that never really required too much strength. And even when she did, it was probably taken care of by the dragons. So she's definitely strong, but I just don't think she's stronger than Aaron. But that's definitely up for debate. And then getting 1 point is Sora. It feels kind of harsh, but Sora just doesn't strike me as being overly strong. Her elemental power doesn't require too much strength, it's literally just technology, and her upbringing she basically spent in a lab. She didn't really strike me as someone who would be sat there in the gym all the time, basically. So 1 point, I kind of feel bad, but it just kind of makes sense to have her there. But again, that's my list when it does come to strength. I do think, again, it makes perfect sense. I do think I've got the top and the bottom correct. It's just the middle that I think is more debatable. But again, I would like to know what you guys think on this one, but I do appreciate my list. But the next one is when it comes to the intelligence of the ninja. Number 10 is Zane. He's an android. I don't really know what else to really say about it. He literally knows anything and everything. So Zane had to be at number 10 when it does come to IQ. I don't know what else you want me to say in that regard. Getting 9 points for me has to be Sora. I mean, she is quite literally the second most intelligent of the lot. She has everything that Zane has, just without the backing of having access to databases and having access to statistics. Sora is definitely very much up there in terms of her intelligence. Where she lacks in strength, she definitely does make up for with her brain. Honestly, she definitely does deserve this high. I wish she had 10, but unfortunately she can't beat a literal Ninjroid. Number 8 for me is definitely Nia. Nia has obviously demonstrated a lot of intelligence before. She was the original inventor. She's had a lot of different moments of intelligence through the years. Honestly, you can't discount her enough. Just because there are other characters that have taken her place doesn't mean she's not smart by any account. Nia getting 8 points makes perfect sense to me, and honestly is very much deserved. Getting 7 points is Cole. I feel like Cole is very much underrated in terms of his intelligence. He's extremely smart, emotionally speaking as well. He has a lot of different beats that definitely does prove he has a lot of wit about him. He definitely has his moments that let him shine in that regard. Of course, he's not an inventor. He doesn't create machines. He doesn't do anything in that regard. But Cole is so smart in so many different ways that he needed to have 7 points in this situation. Getting number 6 is definitely Kai. I feel like it would have been a lot lower a few years ago, but Dragon's Rising has definitely proved a lot of intelligence when it does come to Kai. Kai has his moments and definitely has his instances where he, again, in similar vein to Cole, has got that emotional intelligence. He definitely has got his moments that definitely let him shine. So 6 points, very deserving for the Red Ninja. Number 5, I did kind of go back and forth between him and 4. Number 5 is going to be Jay. He does deserve that kind of moment. Jay has definitely had his dumber moment, especially in the 11-minute era. But the thing is that, again, in Dragon's Rising, he has definitely been shown to have a lot of intelligence. And remember, Jay is also, again, an inventor. But the thing is that I did put him a little bit lower, just simply because he has had a lot of moments where he has definitely come across not the most intelligent. But the thing is that a lot of people could debate that number 4 should actually be in number 5. And that's because it's Lloyd. I do think it's a bit harsh to have him this low because he's definitely intelligent. I definitely think he has got those moments, and I definitely think he should be a little higher, but I just simply think the rest of them do have better moments. And the thing is that I did consider him putting him above Jay, but it does literally come down to the fact that Jay's an inventor and Lloyd isn't. So Lloyd's getting 4. It feels harsh, but I feel valid. Getting 3 points is Aaron. I, again, feel weirdly bad because none of these characters are stupid by any account. But the thing is that Aaron, just simply put, just has a lot more to learn. Aaron definitely has got a lot to figure out, a lot to pick up on, and I feel like that is why he has to be this low. But again, it does feel extremely harsh. Frank's gonna get 2 points. Again, it really does feel harsh, but in similar vein to Aaron, he just simply has got a lot to learn. I just don't really know what else to say in that regard, just simply apart from the fact that they're both young and they both just have a lot to learn. And getting 1 point is Wildfire. It kind of goes without saying. Again, she didn't really know much, and she was definitely a lot more, again, feral when we were first introduced to her. She's definitely getting there, but she has a long way to go in very similar vein to the rest of them. But that is IQ. It feels very harsh when you get towards the bottom, but unfortunately we do have a lot of very intelligent ninja on our team. But I do feel like this list is mostly right. I do think there could be a couple adjustments, but I do think it's quite stable for the most part. This does lead us to the 4th category, which I said was elemental power. This is just simply how they utilize their elemental power in a combat scenario. And number 10, again, kind of has to go to Lloyd, because of just simply how he uses it. He knows exactly what to do with his power. He knows exactly what to do and what not to do with it. I don't really know how else to put it, apart from the fact that it's Lloyd's elemental power, and also it's debatably the strongest element, full stop. Although, we don't really know what it is. Getting 9 points, I feel like this is my bias, but Cole, Earth power is just really cool. I think Cole has a very good utility of it as well. Cole has had some amazing moments when it does come to his power. I do think he does have some moments where he could utilize it better, but I definitely think Cole has a very good grip on what to do with his element, and it's definitely a very cool element. Again, this is probably my bias though. Number 8 is Nia. I do feel like Nia had a very strong case when it comes to her power. Nia's utilization is very cool, especially in Seabound pre-merge. The thing is that even before she did merge with the sea, she definitely had a fantastic utilization of it. And I do wish we got to see more of it in the modern show. You know, Nia using water to jump up to places, Nia using water to get around. It was really cool to see. I wish she did use it more, but it's proof that there is concept of what they could be doing. Getting 7 points for here is Kai. I mean, the elemental power of fire is really cool, but look no further than when how Kai used it in Season 2 Part 2 against Noct with every elemental power. Kai's utilization of his power is fantastic. He knows exactly what he can and can't do with it. I can't fault him enough. Just watch Kai versus Noct again if you don't believe me. I'm giving 6 points to Jay because, again, in Dragon's Rising, he has definitely proved how you could use the elemental power of lightning. Again, I'm thinking of Season 1 Part 1 where Jay uses his lightning powers basically as a whip. You can hear that snap when he uses it against the Dragonians. It is really cool, and outside of that, he does, again, have really cool instances of using his elemental power. So I can't doubt him enough. It has to be 6. Zane's getting 5. Again, I wanted it to be higher because Zane has definitely used his power in very cool ways. I mean, he killed the Overlord with it. But the thing is that Zane definitely does have moments where I feel like he could use his elemental power better. Not that he doesn't use it well, but the thing is that all the other ninja just simply have utilized it better. But that still means he gets 5 points. I gave Sora 4 points here, and that's because whilst when she does use her power, it is extremely good and extremely useful, and she uses it very well, the thing is that it's the most contingent on external factors. Of course, you can argue that Nia, for example, draws on water from the external environment, but Nia theoretically can create water. But in the case of Sora, if there's no technology, she is completely screwed. So she is very much up there, and she would have been higher if her elemental power wasn't contingent on external factors only. 3 points goes to Frack. Again, this felt extremely harsh, but I just simply think Frack does use his elemental power very well, but again, in a lot of different categories, he just simply has got a lot to learn. There's not really much more to say about that, it's just he needs to be able to learn to use his power better. But he does actually use it very well, and he definitely does have his moments. 2 again feels so harsh, but it's Wildfire. She just throws her powers at the thing in front of her, and she hopes that it succeeds. I don't know how else to put it. She is obviously learning how to use her power better, and she's definitely had her moments, but again, in similar vein to Frack, she does have got a lot to learn. So, 2 points. Sorry, Wildfire, I'm not beating the allegations. And number 1 is Aaron. He doesn't have an elemental power. I don't know what else to do. I considered giving him 0 because he kind of just doesn't really apply. But yeah, that's the whole team in terms of their elemental power. In my opinion, it makes a lot of sense to me. I do think there's a lot of really good reasoning behind all of them, and I definitely think there is a lot of debate as to which could be moved, but I do like this list. The 5th category, though, is actually the ninja in their prime. This is what I consider them at their strongest. I do think there's a lot of arguments on what is and what isn't their strongest, but I'm going to base it purely on that. Getting 10 points, of course, is Lloyd, the ultimate Spinjitzu master, the Golden Ninja. I don't think there is much debate there. Number 9, I'm going to give to Nia. I feel like it kind of goes out saying that her prime was when she merged with the sea. I think she had a lot of power when she was doing that. She was functionally immortal. I think that is kind of the biggest factor above all else. I don't think she'd be able to beat Lloyd still, but the thing is that she definitely does have a good chance. But yeah, she's extremely strong. I can't take that away from her. Again, 8 points for me is Cole. I do think a lot of people may disagree with me. I do consider his prime to be the Spinjitzu burst that we did see in Season 13. But also, the rock golem thing in Dragon's Rising is also extremely strong. I do think there's a lot of reason to suggest that Cole in his prime is definitely a force to be reckoned with. I don't doubt whatsoever that he would be able to absolutely steamroll anyone in his way. Getting 7 points is Kai. A lot of people consider his prime to be when he held the Staff of Elements, but I don't really consider that his prime by any account. He just used some elemental powers for 30 seconds. I think regardless of that, his prime to an extent is kind of his dragon form from Crystallized, and also to an extent just him generally in Dragon's Rising. He has had so many good instances and so many feats of power, and I definitely think, again in similar vein to Cole, he is beyond a force to be reckoned with. So I do feel like 7 points is very good for the Master of Fire. Zane is going to get 6 points because his prime is technically the Ice Emperor. I do think there is reason to believe that it may not be, because in similar vein to Kai, he's kind of just evil for this portion, but it's definitely with his powers and when he was at his strongest. And I will say, the only reason he isn't higher is because technically speaking, when he was the Ice Emperor, he didn't really remember he was Zane. So the thing is that if someone had the other scroll of Forbidden Spinjitzu, all it would require basically is Spinjitzu to be able to defeat the Ice Emperor. So I do feel like he kind of loses a couple points for that. But Zane has definitely still had a very strong prime, and I have to give him that. I'm going to give 5 points to Jay because, again, his true or his prime form, I guess, would have been his dragon form from Crystallized, or, again, in similar vein to Kai, his Dragon's Rising state. He is still very strong, but I definitely think it's just a little bit weaker than the rest of the ninja. That is not a diss towards Jay whatsoever. I just think his prime is just not as good as the rest of them. I don't really know how else to put it. Getting 4 points for me is going to be Sora. The thing is that I do feel like we're currently in her prime. We've definitely seen a lot of fantastic feats from her. I don't think it stands up to the rest of the ninja, unfortunately, because she hasn't had a moment to really overcharge her powers in any way. But the thing is that she definitely is doing very well, and definitely is in the best of her abilities when it does come to the Dragon's Rising characters. So 4 points definitely feels good. But then I'm going to bunch up 3, 2, and 1 all together just simply because I don't think we've seen the prime of any of them. 3 is going to go to Frack because he is still the strongest of the bunch. 2 is going to go to Wildfire because we just really haven't seen any sort of prime from her yet. And the same thing for Aaron at number 1. Unfortunately, they just don't really apply too much in this category because I don't think we've necessarily seen it. But I do think they are worthy of that order regardless. And I do think Prime is a very interesting category because it does base the ninja off of states that definitely did show them at their strongest. And I do think this list does make the most sense of the bunch, just simply down to the scales that we have seen. But let's get on to the final category. And like I said, that's going to be the ninja as they are now, in their current state as of the end of Season 3 Part 2. I do think this is going to be an interesting one, just because of some of the places some of them are. Getting 10 points is actually going to be Jay. Honestly, I think as it stands, Jay is by far the strongest of the bunch, and it comes down to one factor. Jay doesn't abide by a code. Jay is basically unleashed. Jay doesn't stick to the morals of the ninja team. He has gone way beyond what the rest of them are really able to do. And for that reason, he is definitely the strongest of the bunch. 9 points is Lloyd. Again, I feel like it kind of goes without saying. He is just by far in a very good state right now. I think he's very strong in his current state, and I definitely think he has got a lot of potential when it does come to it. Again, it just feels like the Lloyd tax. The Lloyd plot armor strikes once more. Number 8 is Kai. Kai has definitely shown a lot of interesting feats as of the last few seasons, and like I said, it does feel like he's almost in a new prime. I definitely think he has done a lot in Dragon's Rising that definitely proves he's in a very strong place. Honestly, he definitely does feel worthy of 8 points. Number 7 is Nia, for basically every single reason I gave to Kai. It's just I think Kai has got more feats. I just think Nia has done extremely well within Dragon's Rising and definitely has earned her spot. Cole's getting 6 points purely just down to the fact that what we do get to see of him is really cool, but at the same time, Cole has definitely had less screen time and some more debatable decisions. I'm mainly thinking of when he got hollowed. But the thing is that he's definitely still very much in a good place right now. He is still strong no matter how you spin it, it's just I do think he's deserving of more when it does come to the show. Sora is actually going to be getting 5 points here. I do think as it currently stands, she is in a very good place. She wins most of the fights she's in. She has definitely had a lot of good strength over the course of Dragon's Rising. I think it would be a disservice to have her any lower, and I definitely think she is worthy of this spot. And you may notice it is ahead of one of a particular ninja. And that is Zane. I'm going to give him 4 points. I do think he's had some very impressive moments, especially when he was in that big buff form. He was able to stand up to Thunderfang and even deliver a very good punch towards him. But the thing is that apart from that, he just hasn't really had much. He didn't do too well in the tournament. He hasn't done too well outside of a lot of different seasons that wasn't his, and I had to take that into consideration. But it's still going to be 4. Frank's going to be at 3. I think he's had some really cool moments, it's just he doesn't stand up to the rest of the ninja currently. I do think he's going to progressively get better and better, and maybe even raise up the table, but as it stands, he is strong, but just not stronger than the rest. Wildfire is going to be at 2. Again, I'm not beating the Wildfire allegations, it's just simply down to the fact that I think the others are in a much stronger spot right now. I think she's had a lot of really good moments, it's just she doesn't compare to the rest. I'm sorry, Wildfire, it is what it is. And finally, at 1 point, Aaron. I do feel bad for him, but again, even though he is really good right now, he has had some fantastic moments, I don't want to get it twisted in any way. Unfortunately, he does just have the disadvantage of being the only powerless one. Again, it feels extremely harsh, and it does feel almost wrong, but I just don't think he'd be able to beat any of the rest of them currently. I just think that's just kind of the case for Aaron. But he's good in so many other different ways, it's just unfortunately not here. But just like that, I have gone through every single criteria I did set out, and if you have been keeping track, you now know what the overall score is. I do think these categories were a really good way of articulating my point. I do think all of them have very good arguments for every single category, but I do think I'm fairly happy with what I've got. But overall, the score was out of 60, so let's go from weakest to strongest. Coming in at number 10, and by all account the weakest of the lot, is Wildfire. Unfortunately, she just failed in a lot of different categories, and out of 60, she got a score of 10. In 9th place, only just beaten her out by 1 point, is actually going to be Aaron. Honestly, I was afraid he was going to get the bottom spot, but he did beat out Wildfire with 11 out of 60. Honestly, considering he doesn't have powers, he has done fairly good here. I respect him for that. Again, 8th place with 18 points is going to be Frack. Honestly, really good considering we haven't seen too much of him yet. I think he has done a lot, and I definitely think he has the most area for improvement of the lot. I'm honestly very looking forward to seeing more of Frack, and I definitely think over the next few seasons, he could definitely get up there. But 18 out of 60 is pretty good. 7th is going to be Sora. She had 27 out of 60. She's definitely the strongest of all of the new ninja on the team. I think she has done very well, all things considered, and definitely has earned her spot on this list. Honestly, fair play to Sora, she's definitely earned this one. Getting 6th place, and of course, this is all the core ninja now, is currently Zane. Zane has got 37 out of 60. He has done fairly well and has definitely succeeded in a lot of categories. It's just in some others, he's definitely fallen flat. Hopefully we get some more Zane love soon because he's definitely in need of it. Number 5 is going to be Jay. He got 38 out of 60. He only beat out Zane by 1 point, but Zane has definitely been falling while Jay has only been rising. Jay has definitely had a lot of really good moments over the course, in particular in Dragon's Rising. So honestly, I am glad he got the 5th place spot. Again, 4th is going to be Nia. Honestly, I expected her to be a little bit higher, but honestly, it makes sense. She got 44 out of 60, so she got about 75% overall. She has done extremely well for herself, and I definitely think, again, in the future, she could potentially continue to go up. Honestly, she's a very strong character, and I'm glad she got into at least 4th place. Again, the bronze medal at 3rd is going to be Kai. Kai, honestly, it made sense for him to be this high up. He has definitely earned the spot as one of the strongest. He got 46 out of 60. So, honestly, he did do fairly well for himself. I'm very glad to see him as high up as he is. The bronze medal has gone to the Master of Fire. Coming in at the silver spot is Cole. Cole scored 48 out of 60. He got 80% overall. He did extremely well, and honestly, it makes total sense considering that Cole is regarded as one of the strongest on the team. But of course, there was one person who naturally did beat him out. And it goes without saying the first is in fact Lloyd. He scored 51 out of 60. Honestly, he did very good for himself. He didn't get too much higher than Cole, but I do think that honestly kind of makes sense. Even though it is Lloyd at the end of the day, Cole is still regarded, like I said, as one of the strongest. So it makes sense that he is at least somewhat close in terms of their power. But it does make sense that Lloyd does take the first place spot. But just like that, that is my list of the strongest ninja when it does come to our main ninja team, and where all of them place in my opinion. But let me know what you do think of my list. Do you agree or do you disagree? I do feel like I have done fairly well at being as neutral as possible. I do think at the end of the day you could always make adjustments, but I do think you could do that no matter what. There are always something more you can consider, and unfortunately that is just the way it goes. But I do think my list is fairly good. I would love to see your own interpretation of these lists, because I would like to see how things differ from person to person. But just like that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I do hope you enjoyed. And if you did, please consider subscribing. I love talking about Ninjago with more people. And if you do want to support the channel any further, which you don't have to, you could always consider becoming a member. You could join the legends like you see on screen, and a particular shout out to Grandmaster Sensei 28208. Thank you very much, my friend. But that is about it for today, you guys, and thank you very much for watching. Take care. Okay, bye!